Hi friends, this is the Be Real Babe podcast, a place where your average Canadian wolfpack come together to talk about life stresses, messes, and successes. A safe space where being yourself is the ultimate goal. Each week we will bring you new episodes sharing our opinions on a ton of different topics in hopes we can get a better understanding of ourselves, each other, and this crazy world we live in. We want to build a community where we can show up as ourselves, be real, and lay it all out there. By sharing our opinions and experiences, we hope to reach others who can relate so we can all help each other learn, grow, and heal. But please keep in mind, as a disclaimer, none of us here are professionals, no one is giving any advice. We are strictly speaking of our life experiences, our opinions, and for entertainment purposes only. Now, with that being said, it's time. So grab your drink, grab your joint, and let's jump right in. Welcome everyone. Welcome to Being Real With. This is a part of the Be Real Babe podcast where we get back to our roots and we talk to our friends, family, and ourselves about our experiences, our feelings, and pretty much whatever the fuck we want. For those that don't know me, my name is Brandi. I am the host of the show, and today you guys are on episode 141, Being Real with B. We're going to do another solo episode, you guys. It's coming to summer. All of us are on vacations and doing new jobs and all over the place. So just aren't able to mesh up together as much as we'd hoped. So we're hitting a few solo episodes and also to kind of test them out because season 6 is going to be a lot different as every season is different. We're going to try and dial it back a little bit, but let's see what you guys think of these short, hopefully 20-minute, half an hour rants, these solo episodes, and see how those go. Today I put a post up to see what you guys wanted me to talk about, what to rant about, because I was kind of going through two things and I wasn't quite sure which one I wanted to go through. And all of you talked and said that you wanted me to talk about the beauty industry and that kind of area and beauty standards. So we're going to go in that direction instead of political. I hear you. I'm listening. Because there's a lot of noise with some of these policies and laws that are coming out and bills and whatnot. So, wanted to look into that. But this one's also been bothering me quite a bit lately, and I've been going back and forth of how I was going to talk about this because, I want to be thoughtful when I'm talking about this and I want to be intentional, but I also want to be real and honest. But before we get into that, before we talk about being real with me, let's remind you guys, if you are on YouTube or Rumble, to like and subscribe, turn on those notifications. If you're feeling sassy, put some comments on there and it helps us break out of the algorithm and lets us know that you guys are enjoying our stuff. Say hi, hello in the comments, what you like, what you don't like. All those things, we're here to listen. And if you are listening on the audio platforms like Spotify or Apple, you can also turn on notifications so you know when a new episode drops. And if you are on social media, you can find us at the Be Real Babe podcast on Instagram, Facebook, as well as Pinterest. We are loving the love on Pinterest, you guys. But as mentioned, we are close to wrapping up season 5 here and crazily enough preparing for season 6. Super excited. But before we do that, we have a couple episodes left in this season, y'all. Then we get our legit summer break, even though I'm sure you guys can mostly see my first summer break, the redness on my face that I was watching video. But today, let's talk about, in this episode, let's talk about the beauty industry and kind of maybe just where I'm at personally. I have some numbers here because you guys know we like to have some things, but basically a lot lately, and if you guys have been following, you guys know my feelings about and how I've kind of changed when it comes to like my own, let's say, beauty standards and any sort of dysmorphia that I personally suffer with. And as a past photographer, I've really gone back and tried to think about things and my actions and maybe where I contributed to helping people strictly find their worth in photos. I don't know. Okay, that's kind of jumbled. But my point is that while I'm going through my own journey of trying to figure out where my worth is, and I for a long time, I definitely thought my worth was in definitely how I appeared. And, I would say all these things, like I'm doing all this makeup and I'm buying all these clothes and I'm doing all these extras for me because I want to look good. And then I would do all those things and I still would obsess about other things. And, if that wasn't good enough, then there was something else. And when you're in fitness, it's the same thing. And I think all of us that go to the gym, especially those that don't compete or just doing it for fun, you kind of get wrapped up in that looking around and comparing and it never being good enough instead of, just staying in your lane and looking back at your past photos and just being very proud of where you are. It is very easy to get caught up in any point in your life in the comparison game. And I think because of social media and the ability to quote unquote see other people's lives more and more, or what they want to cultivate, I think that comparison game kind of went up like 1,000, it's like I think about, we all go through our things. This is going to be a scattered episode, you guys, so just bear with me. But I think back to when I was a kid and we were terrible. Like there was some girls that were bang on with their makeup, don't get me wrong, but most of us were like terrible. I felt like that was kind of like the awkward teenage years that you kind of were supposed to go through, where you weren't 15 looking like you're turning 35, like you were supposed to, it's supposed to be obvious that you weren't that good at doing your makeup yet. Or maybe that I'm just jealous because that's what our generation had to go through because we didn't have these YouTube tutorials. But I think about how quick everybody is aging and how fast people are aging and how quick kids are aging now. And I going back again to when I was younger, like these standards, quote unquote, of beauty, like if you follow them and you follow the trends, like for me, I had to sit back and say, like, what end, right? Because if you go, like I said, back to when I was a teenager, people were not doing Botox at 20 or 30 or 40 years old. That was for women that were in their 60s, like, and that had money. It wasn't necessarily every single person. And I'm not shading on people that do. I'm just saying, like, when I looked at the comparison and how fast things have progressed and how, as we get older, we're trying to look younger. And then now it's like the younger you are, the older you're trying to look. And then you're going to get to that stage where you're like, oh shit, wish I would have looked younger. And then you think about all the things that you did that are contributing to where you are now, right? Like thinking not just like skincare, but even just like health and drinking water. Like when I was a teenager, we didn't think about drinking water and how healthy that was. And now with the power of social media and all that, the influencers and all that kind of stuff, in a positive way, kids are looking at the things now that they can do. I guess it's a positive way, but again, like to stop aging. I don't know if that's the right way to drink water, but it just kind of blows me away at how fast that progression went of things that are just for like adults and stuff, and letting kids be kids and just going through those awkward phases and allowing them to be uncomfortable and finding who they are through the awkwardness. It's like, okay, here's a YouTube video of how to perfectly contour your face and you're never going to have to worry about wrinkles again and all those kind of things. And I just feel like it's a little bit sad and it's robbing them of their childhood because now they have to think about wrinkles. Like I did not think about wrinkles when I was a teenager. I wouldn't have really, like, I'm sure it was in there. And don't get me wrong, I had body dysmorphia, but I did not, like, I have like more face dysmorphia now more than ever because I feel like for the last like 10 years, especially, it's been a heavy push on plastic surgeries. And, you don't like something, there's a surgery for that. And you don't like this, there's a pill for that. And and that's what kind of sprung this episode is that I was a part of a group, fitness group. When you join most of those standard program ones, you get involved in the Facebook group. And one of the girls had mentioned, and I'm not trying to shade anybody that does this, it just kind of made me really sit back and reflect like where we are in a society of this, like, I want this instantly now, I'm not happy now, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get that result, maybe despite some of the risks that might be there. So this woman said she had been watching her calories and exercising for 3 months now, and she wasn't getting the results that she wanted. And she was pissed. And so she's just going to go get a tummy tuck. Now, I'm not saying, and please don't take any of this like I'm saying you shouldn't get those things or that I think that they're bad. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is like, are we in this point of society sometimes where the instant gratification of something far outweighs the risk of that? When people say things like, when I've been said in the past, like, oh, just get your boobs done or just go get your nose done if you don't like it. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think those are little life decisions that you make. I think those are big, huge life decisions that very much impact your day to day. I don't know about you guys, but I prefer not to take my time off to recover from an elective surgery. That's just my personal choice. I'm not shaming anybody that does, but that's such a big decision. And I think more often than not now, and I'm not sure why this is, but, and I'm all for people doing what they should do for themselves as long as they have informed consent. But I kind of wonder why people, let's say like myself or others that kind of warn and fight for like, like, oh, maybe just sit on that for a little bit and like see if, you can work around your mind to maybe just accept that about yourself or love that for yourself. Instead of just being like, go under the knife and go do surgery. I always kind of wonder, like, why do we get hated on for that? Why is that such a big deal for someone to just be like, hey, maybe don't get that $5,000-$10,000 surgery for a bit. Maybe sit on that and just like, is that worth the risk to you? Do you know all the risks? And it's none of my business. I'm really not saying that. That's why I never go out and say that to other people. Why I have them on an episode. I just kind of wonder those things, and I've been that person a million times, a million different ways I've wanted to, and I've looked at the quotes and I've seen what it could be. And well, to be honest, I'm just a pussy and I don't want to go on any surgeries or anything like that. But I think just because the first big lie for Western medicine was like it's safe and effective with birth control, and how much that fucked me up. And it just kind of made me not trust that, if you know me, you know how I struggle to know if things are safe and effective when everybody has different chemical makeups. Everyone has different toxic loads. Everyone has different environments inside and outside their body, what they're eating, what they're doing. So how is it possible for anything to be proven safe and effective when there's no absolute way, in my opinion, to be able to replicate anyone's body, anyone's makeup, of how a new chemical is going to react? Like, and when we do have stuff where it's like a big group of people are reacting to this, it's not taken off the markets. It's not changed. It's just kind of like, oh, it's there and it's whatever. And I struggle with all of these things. This is where I've kind of been in the last couple of years, where it's like, I look back and I think of all the stuff that I used to do, especially when I lived in Grand Prairie. I felt like I felt a little bit more pressured. I feel there to keep up with that kind of thing. I feel like there's definitely more hippies in BC. So I feel like I get away with being a little bit more in touch with my natural self, even though I'm sure like, definitely, I'm not saying Kelowna is not has everybody, but I definitely felt like I could be a little bit more myself here and not worry. Maybe that's because we're at the beach all the time, and who has time to put makeup on when you're at the beach all the time? But I go back and forth of being like, yes, queen, like fucking do you, do all those things, and because I used to do them too, to like, is this woman empowerment? Is this good for us? Is this mentally and physically and all good for us? I'm really in that middle part of my life where I'm just, there's a part to me that's like, I feel like it has to be, a balance. For myself personally, when I couldn't afford all those extra things, like I said, in Grand Prairie, getting my hair done all the time, like every 6 to 8 weeks, getting eyelashes done, getting your nails done, getting all the waxing done, and that I feel like, and you're like, I feel like there's a like maximum amount of stuff that you can do. And for me personally, that never changed. And then when I didn't have those things, like, it didn't make me feel better. And then when I didn't have those things, I felt 10 times even worse. And I'm not saying that's everyone, and I'm not saying anybody that gives these services or takes these services. This is my own personal thing that I've been going through, where I kind of go back and forth all the time, where I'm like, yes, queen, represent yourself, but also like, I hope that you can find inner beauty in yourself without all of that, and that your self-worth doesn't depend on that. I think we can all probably relate at that middle ground of wanting to, be ourselves and be artistic and express ourselves and be able to do what we want on our own standards, and express that through makeup or hair or none at all or whatever, however that may be. To also a balance of like, is this making my dysmorphia worse? Is this making my self-love worse, or is it highlighting it? Because if we're all being honest, and I will always be the first one, for a long time, it completely masked, and I could not stand looking at myself with makeup. I could not go outside the door without wearing makeup. And I'm sorry if that pisses anybody off, but I know there's a lot of people that have been there at that same place too. And once you get past that, you look back and you feel terrible that you put yourself through that you thought your worth was solely on a full face of makeup walking out the door. And that's your importance to society, and the rest does not matter. um, and that's where I struggle with. It's like, I agree that there should be these services and we should be able to do those things, and they are such a beautiful art form and a way of expression for people across the board. And of course people have to make bank, and of course people should be able to change things they want about their body. I'm not saying any of those things. What I'm saying is where is the line? And that's going to be different for every single person. But what pisses me off is how much these industries make off of our insecurities. We've talked about everyone in our generation. We're so mad at Playboy. We're so mad at MTV and these celebrities for showing us that like skinny phase with like Nikki Richie and Paris Hilton. And we're so pissed off from the body dysmorphia that we have, that we've developed from them. But then you look now at like, let's just say our generation, the generation that's growing up to the point where 20-year-olds feel like they need to have Botox so that they don't see wrinkles and they don't see expression lines and they just have the perfect face. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't try and do that. If that's what you want to achieve, go for it. But where's our social responsibility as well to the next generation if we're so pissed at this? It's either we can't be mad at them for what they did or we have to do better. And from someone that grew up like always constantly, and everyone always, we've talked about this before, and body dysmorphia ones, you just think because someone's smaller or maybe has the body that you want, that they then cannot suffer from any sort of body dysmorphia, and that's just not true. And I feel with everyone suffers from some form of face dysmorphia. There is so many now with when we, because remember when we were younger growing up, we just seen celebrities Photoshop because that's how everyone could afford it, is if they had professional. Even when I was doing photography, like photos were not online like they are now. Like these polished, nice professional photos were the ones that you got printed and you put around your house at special occasions. Now iPhones are so good, and there's so much editing tools out there that there's photos of everyone doing every all the time. So it's very different now. And so when we were growing up, it was very, I find like it was hard, but it was even easier to be like, yeah, that's a celebrity, that's a rich person, they can afford to do all these things and da 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 da. But now with social media, it's looking like everyday people are flawless. Like even with right now, I'm using a ring light. Like we all do it, but like come on, that's terrible lighting. I'm not saying I'm not doing it, but um at what form, right? And if and there's it's mentally, this is fucking people up mentally. But then when you start going through this and you start researching like how much the industry is worth, how much money they're making, how much the beauty industry is making, I'm not saying they shouldn't make money, but then you hear of all the bad things that come with some of those products, like all the hormone disruptors, all of those things, all the cancer causing chemicals, all the weird shit that goes on there. It's like, where do we find this balance, right? Where do we find this balance where we can express ourselves and feel artistic and feel great, where we could also, not find our complete identity in our looks and how we show up that way? And I think all of us have probably go up and down in that journey all the time. And I think the only thing that upsets me about the beauty industry and these standards is the people that then latch onto that and your insecurities and drive it home. And one of the subjects and one of the things that we're talking about today in the DMs when I asked what people want me to talk about today is especially mom pressures. And like, obviously I cannot share what that feels like. I didn't mean that in a rude way. Like, I don't want to speak on behalf of moms, but I do know that that is a huge thing because I don't know where it came out that you have to look a certain way or be a certain way to be a good mother. I think obviously if it's important that you take care of yourself, and again I'm speaking out of my butt because I am a cat mom, obviously I think it's important that you take care of yourself in the sense of nourishing yourself well, and taking care of your body and movement outside of like, and obviously that's hard if you're chasing a 2-year-old through around, like you're getting movement, right? It doesn't have to look like it's at the gym. It could be just being a present parent and chasing your kid around, or doing all the house chores, da 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 da. And I know things like prioritizing sleep and all that. Like, to me, that is what I think should always be focused on. When you're coming to self-care as a mom, that you shouldn't have to worry about if you put your makeup on before you left the house, or like, yeah, it's great if you could wear a clean shirt, I'm sure, but I've left the house with a dirty shirt. That standard of like being the perfect Pinterest mom, while you're growing and teaching human beings. I mean, yeah, there's a line. Obviously you want to show up and show your kids personal hygiene and self-care, but at the same time, those children that are growing up that are learning that, they're also not parents, right? They're kids. So it's good to teach them those things and it's good to model them, but also at the same time you're also a parent. So it's like when you hold yourself to a ridiculous standard of always showing up fucking 100% done up, like, I feel like this is not realistic, is it? I feel like most moms don't feel like, when you have the time, hell yeah, if you have to. But most moms, I feel like you don't even fucking get a shower sometimes, So it's like, to have the standard that you should always be fucking put together. I think the moms that are, I don't know, I love the moms that are just so in it with their kids that they don't even notice that, they've got paint in their hair all over them, or, they're maybe wearing two different colored socks because they were just running out the door. And, like, obviously there's got to be a degree where you should be able to have a break and take care of yourself, and, have those moments where you should be able to have a shower with not being interrupted. I hope that I'm making that clear. Like, you should be able to have those things, but I know, especially with the prices of everything, everyone has to work so much that that's just not feasible lately. So it's like, how anybody could expect a mom to, at any age with their kids, be a present mom and show up and try to lead and show, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, like, lead by example by taking care of themselves. Like, I don't think that children are fully going to always get a lesson of you completely doing full blown makeup. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. Don't fucking freak out at me. What I'm saying is like, I know we want to model to our kids our best version of self-care, but that is, to me, like I said, eating good food, making sure you're eating, making sure you're taking downtime, those positive self-care talks, making sure that you're taking time for yourself, and voicing your needs to your partner, and, all of those types of positive things. I think that is the form of self-care that is amazing to show. But if you're not being able to get yourself ready every day and be the perfect Pinterest mom, like, in that sense, I don't think that that's something you should hold guilty. That's just my personal opinion. Again, I'm not a mom, but I think that what should be modeled the most is like self-love, and by saying those things and having grace and being like, oh, it was a crazy day, but you know what, we got through it. And, and for me, I absorbed everything from people around me, right? So if they were calling themselves ugly, I was like, okay, well, I don't think they're ugly, but maybe I'm missing something. So then, like, I am, like, kids are so absorbent, right? And so I think that, yeah, obviously it's great if you can take care and do all those extra things. But I think what kids, like I said, need to be modeled most is just being good to yourselves, because I think all of us can say that we are terrible at being our worst critics. And I think we learned that through time, right? So instead of focusing, I think, on what we look like on the outside to everybody out there as a parent, as a woman, as whatever, I think we should just focus on that self-care and really focusing in on what makes you shine, what makes you happy, what makes you show up. And, if doing that, all that truly makes that for you, you're not doing it for anybody else, then awesome, go for it. But I would just urge that, just, be careful, because all of this stuff, like, didn't want to get too much. I was going to have all these like stats, but I don't really want to get into it because, like, I just want everyone to be aware that all sides of things can take advantage of you in either way. This body positive movement that's out there is a huge topic that I'd really like to touch in the next season. I really struggle sometimes with this body positive movement and the fitness industry. I think on both sides there's some negative and some positive that are fighting here, and I think we always have to find a balance where it's like, yeah, there's a lot that's really good in the fitness industry, and health and wellness is super important, but there's also a really big toxic part of that industry that does take hold of some individuals, and it can fuck you up. And I am one of those people that has gotten there before, where it was like, I literally am just in it so that I, can be stronger and I can live longer and all the health benefits. And yeah, obviously I like to have a little bit of muscle and I like to be able to grow my booty, don't get me wrong, in a pretend, chest line. But I've also been sucked up into that industry where I felt like I had to spend thousands of dollars on supplements and clothes and all those things just to get a good workout. And that is not true. And at the height of my fitness and my fitness career, I was very, very skinny and very, very not well in many different ways. And I had people looking up to me saying that they wanted to be me. And I'm like, the fuck you don't. I am so sick, right? So there is a lot of perceptions, there's a lot of different people that have to do different types of, things that maybe they're not fully comfortable with, or nor the risks, and they learn the hard way. It's not always what you see on social media. Flip to the other side though, I don't think it's always fair and right to say that every body and every size is healthy, because I don't believe that either. And you also get slammed for saying that, and I think that that is 100% on your own personal trigger. You know what size is healthy for you, so no one can judge that. But we can also agree that everyone doesn't have, like, every size isn't healthy for everyone. And I think that that's where that message kind of gets a little lost, is it's kind of like, there's health at every size. Absolutely there is. But everyone is going to have a different size that's healthy or not, right? For me, 100 pounds, not healthy. 150 pounds, not healthy. 125 to 135, that is a great range for my body, for my build. That's what I feel the best, right? So if I was a little bit less, people, oh, you're so thin. I wish I had your body. I'm like, that's not healthy. Shouldn't be that thin. Shouldn't be that small. This is not a healthy size. I didn't get here in a positive manner. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And on the other side, when I was, up 20, 30 pounds, that didn't feel good either. And so it's like, if people could just sometimes take the emotion out of it and just look at yourself individually and say, hey, what is a healthy look for my body? What is a healthy lifestyle for my body? And if you were doing those things, then that's great. But if you're not, then I think that's fair to reevaluate. It has nothing to do with being fat phobic. It has nothing to do with being any phobic anything. It's knowing that some things lead to chronic illness and disease and hardness on your body on either fucking spectrum. It's not one or the other. And everyone is going to look different. And I think that if you can accept that and not get triggered, then you're you're well on your way to a good, positive body, self-love. Because like I said, there's a size that's really healthy for some people, and there's sizes that really aren't, on both sides of the spectrum, and that is going to look different on everyone. But to just sit back and say, if a doctor is concerned about something and delivering it to you in a way that's like alarming about your health, they're not being rude. In my opinion, they're doctors trying to help you because they don't want to see you sick, and that's on both ends. It is not nice to be told that you can't have a baby because you're so skinny and eat a burger. I promise you, people get bullied on either side of the spectrum. And what we have to do is also, instead of always continually blaming outside sources, society says this, my doctor says this, people, like, they're gonna say things. You have to learn for yourself. You have to be your own advocate. You have to be your own scientist and researcher and figure out what is healthy for you. What type of toxic load and risks are you willing to take, to feel good about yourself? Everyone's going to look different. That's why I truly try not to judge. I just want people to be informed. And I just like to say some of these things, like, if anybody else is feeling on the fence, I get that. I get wanting to get up and, look great every single day and the best that I can look. But I also understand that being trapped by that and thinking that my value, especially when you're always told, like, oh, you just get things because of your looks, and you literally hate your looks. You're like, the fuck? It's massive brain fuck. And so it's like, yeah, I get blaming society and standards and stuff, but at the end of the day too, I think if you could just like quiet it out and just listen to what's best for you and follow that standard, I think that's what matters. Because there's always going to be someone, unfortunately, I think we should get better at it. I think we should always shut the fuck up and not really say things and cheer people on. But then in the same sense, when we did that and we had participation trophies and no accountability, people are getting sicker and sicker, and dysmorphia is getting worse, and mental illness is getting worse, and the comparison game is getting worse. Like, so is this the right way to keep going? Or do, like, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, guys. But if you get the services, I 100% understand. I did them all. I completely get it. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, like, if you're at that point in your life too, where you're just like, oh, I don't know, I'm so in the middle. I want everyone to feel good about themselves. I want to make them money, then to make their own money and have their businesses. And I want all services to be available. I just also want to make sure that people are just, having that self-awareness of, like, true, like, self-care. And are you doing things to keep up with an image? Or are you doing it for yourself? And if you're doing it for yourself truly, then I don't see a problem, as long as you know of any risks that could come with that. But I think it's hard to sit here and blame these industries and then also at the same time put your money into them, in a sense, So it's like, I guess we just always have to talk about it, right? What's the accountability? I hope I don't get any hate for this message. I just think, I think that standards are always going to change. So I think for me, it's just learning what truly I love, because the trends and all that's going to change. I mean, eyebrows have changed so much over the time that I've been alive, and, I always worried about that with tattoos. That's why I always went with the gray scales, because I knew I don't like the same colors that I do now. So I just think it's super important that we're just aware, if we're piling on all these different cosmetics and fragrances and all these endocrine disruptors and stuff that we know are cancer causing or fucking with your hormones, and you're all over the place and you can't figure out your hormones. this might be a place. And so this is where I struggle. It's like, I just want people to know that this is out there, that these things can harm you, and physically, mentally. And as long as you know those things and you're aware, so if you do react and you are one of those people, that you can correct it and not sit here and think that you're crazy, that's what matters. But anyways, guys, I hope you like this quick little episode. Again, I'm not making shame anybody, but I just wanted everyone to, have their feelings heard, because I know a lot of people feel stressed out about this and they always worry about these standards, but I don't think you guys should worry. I think as long as you're doing the healthy things mentally, physically, spiritually, that is what matters. Don't worry about the standards, but make sure that, you have some set healthy standards for yourself too, right? You don't want to be caving to what other people need, but you also, have to have accountability. You got to find that balance, right? But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Until next time, bye. Thank you guys so much for stopping by the show today. We truly hope that you had a good time. If you like this episode and you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe to our channels, like our episodes, and turn on those notification bells. You can find us on Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, and Google Podcast. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. Until next time, guys.